Wasn't nothing like that. Man, it wasn't nothing like that.
I can say that. But no, fabulous. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you guys some questions. So we asked our panelists why mentoring was important to them. Now, a lot of you guys do mentoring, but I want to ask you guys, why is mentoring important to you? Okay.
I would say it's important in general for me because what you said earlier, you spoke about it takes like a village to raise a child. And for me, when I was growing up, it's literally a village that raised me, if that makes sense. Like, my mum had me when she was 18 and whatnot, and back then I was back down in Jamaica, so it was literally everyone around me that was kind of raising me. And how I see it is the things that I've managed to learn from a young age, and then growing up, it's like they're cemented within me, if that makes sense. Like the type of mindset that I have now, or the way that I think, it's not necessarily because of me, but it's the amount of interactions I've had with so many people that were either dropping me gems or kind of speaking to me or taking me aside to kind of tell me about different things in life. That's what kind of like set in stone like the way of thinking, if that makes sense, for myself. So I'd say it's important to have a mentor because it just feels like other than your parents, you have someone to go to, if that makes sense. And then other from that person, because I don't feel that you need to just have one. Sometimes you can have two or three, because different mentors can specialize in different things. One can manage your mindset, another one can manage your actual physical journey and the steps that you want to take. And then the third one could just manage in the sense of, I don't know, your financials when it comes to saving or whatever it is. So I'd say that's why it's important.
I think the two things that I took away from what you said was the first about having mentors for different things. I think for me as well, I have a life mentor, business mentor, spiritual mentor. I have a mentor in all different areas because that's their area of expertise, or that's where I know that I can go to them and they're going to give me not the answer that I need, but not the answer that I want, the answer I need. And I think it's important not to just have one mentor and think that they're going to support you in every area, because they have their life too. And I think the other thing that I got from that as well was that mentoring is not always direct. I know a lot of us go into schools or different settings or businesses, and you can kind of go to like sit down with them for an hour, do a bit of mentoring, but sometimes it's just someone asking you a question and you helping them. It's not always the let's sit down, let's talk. Sometimes people just see what you're doing is mentoring, and it's so effective as well. So what are your next steps now to kind of getting into mentoring? What are you going to take away from today?
I mean, there's lots of things to take away. I think even the questions from the people that we spoke, I mean, it's about figuring out that we can't just take away from the panelists. I think even the panelists ask questions, and it's about figuring out how we can collaborate. So I've already spoken to someone. Yeah, collaboration is really important.
Yes.
Makes you stronger. It builds both platforms. It reaches more people. So there was the question about how do I scale this? How do I get to the next level? Actually, it's relationships. How do we foster good relationships? How do we foster business relationships? How do we help that to grow? So I think from being in a room like this with everyone who has the same interest, in a sense, you know, the same passion for this thing, we've actually got a strong network of people that actually, we can work together now and reach a different demographic or reach a different age. But like, I think that'll be the next steps, is getting information, getting on LinkedIn, getting Instagrams and tagging away, you know.
No, definitely. I think collaboration is so important. I think, especially within this industry, I think there's so much we can do to impact people, whether it is youth, whether it is business, whether it's universities. We all have different gifts in this room that we can bring together and give, and I think the generation before us, that's what they were missing, was that collaboration bit. I think we now can do that. We can kind of work together to build something that is going to really change and help the next generation. What you kind of take from today's event, if anything, to kind of add?
But you're a great host.
Yeah. Actually, it's really nice to be in a space where people are all focused on a similar sort of goal. I think it can be, because I don't have any supervision, you know what it's like. You just kind of get on and do on and head down and just try and be as positive as you can, be with as many people as you can. It's really nice to be able to be a little bit reflective and see that there's other people on journeys that are also not sure where they're going, or they might want to.
Can I stick to him for you 1 second?
Yeah.
Just because when he said supervision, I feel like there's two different ways to look at supervision.
Go on.
Supervision is someone watching you do what you do, and supervision also having a mentor for yourself. So it's like, I think what he was mentioning to you was you have to upload so then you can be in a place of figuring out where you are with what you're doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's two ways. So like we work together. When we're together, after we finish a session, Belinda will say, oh yeah, maybe you shouldn't have mentioned it like that, and I'll say, oh, maybe you mentioned it like that, or
Yeah.
you jumped in on me. But then there's also the supervision that says, okay, you go to your mentor and say, okay, this is what I've been dealing with, okay, this is where you step away, bro. This is where, okay, you did all you could do. Sometimes we need that. I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, because there's two things that we implement. One is the daily debrief. So daily debrief, which you said, is like, all right, potentially you could have done that better, or potentially this is how we could have whatever, or today I've been feeling like this. But the other side of it is, most mentors are pouring from an empty cup, because they've already got things going on and they're trying to go into a space where they're trying to help people, and they're doing it out of the love of their heart, but really they don't realise that they're coming from an empty place. Does that make sense? So how would you find ways that you can refuel yourself?
Like, I feel like personally, adding to like what you guys are saying, like it's just like energy. Like eventually, as like being a mentor, as you just said, you're offloading all the time. You're kind of giving, whether that's advice or whether that's your time. And eventually, sometimes you need that return back, if that makes sense. Don't feel selfish that you need that back, but ultimately we're all human. You're going to spend that time. You're going to spend your words and all of those things. You're literally giving all of that energy to a person or to a number of different people. Whereas eventually, sometimes you need to pause and kind of you need to offload in now, if that makes sense. Because we're all just, as much as we're human, we're all just bundles of energy, if that makes sense. So the same way how you need to charge your phone, someone still needs to charge you, if that makes sense.
And people do not pass up on charging their phone.
So I'll just encourage you, Belinda, like from my own benefit, for everyone else's benefit, to keep that consistency going and to keep driving forward and these kind of things, because it will only get bigger and better.
Of course, and I think one thing.
Sorry, lad.
No, it's all right. I'm normally the one interrupting people, so it's nice to be on the other end of it from the
One thing that I really want to do, especially for mentors, is create a space where maybe it might be monthly, every 2 months, where they can kind of come together, share the things that they're kind of experiencing with their young people, so they can offload, but also get advice from other mentors in the room. So it's a safe space for mentors, because I believe mentors need mentors. But I think mentoring is a great thing. I think we do have to create these spaces for mentors.
Yeah, I've got inspiration, network, connect, experiences, advice, listen, and opportunities.
Definitely. I think the advising is important. I think no one knows everything.
Because like when we're listening to the panelists, it's important to like listen to what they're saying, because it might take something away that maybe that they've done during their mentoring, and being able to put that into practice, because you may think that you're doing something, but then you might learn something new from somebody else, and then you can then put that into practice yourself. So I think that's like really important, and I think that's what I'm trying to take away from today.
Oh, definitely. That's good. I think we always have to be willing to learn.
Yeah.
We all don't know everything, so definitely. What qualities would you say makes a great mentor? Whether it is business, whether it is youth, whatever kind of mentoring, what qualities do you think?
The biggest one, I think, is the ability to listen more than you speak. I feel like no one's really hearing, and I think it was said a couple of times, like, actually listen to what they want. I think he said that you could be mentoring someone for 6 months and maybe you don't see a result, but then 2 years later, it's about just figuring out what it is that's necessary. So listening for me is probably the biggest thing. 50%, if not 60% of the whole thing.
I would say transparency, but then also a hint of no judgment. So like from what I've kind of seen in the past, like I've had a very, let's just say, colourful background of getting up to things that I'm not necessarily proud of, but what I kind of do when I'm speaking to whoever that I could be unintentionally mentoring, I'm very transparent in the things that I've experienced in life, if that makes sense, because I always feel like in order for someone to, let's just say, build trust with you, you kind of need to kind of show them what, like, the dark stuff in your closet, if that makes sense. Because if you're just telling them all these amazing things and take this road and take that road, it's all well, but does that person trust you enough in order to really get comfortable with you? So I'd say always try and be somewhat transparent that you're comfortable with, but then also come from a place of no judgment, because everyone's raised or operate in different environments. Some are worse than others. So sometimes they're going to get unintentionally drawn into certain things, but if you come from a place of judgment, you're going to kind of limit yourself and them as well from opening up. But if you kind of let it known that, listen, I'm not here to judge you, I'm just here to speak to you, one, that person's going to feel comfortable, and two, you'll be able to build more than just A to B conversation, if that makes sense. It can be a lot more open, it can be a lot more relaxed, and then that's when I feel like things really start to change, if that makes sense.
No, definitely, and I think people want to know that you're real.
Yeah.
So when you share your experiences and you share the things that you've been through as much as you want to, that creates a safe space for that young person to feel like, do you know what, they are human, I can relate to them. Because when these young people see maybe people who are in corporate, who've been working there for years, or maybe teachers, in their head they don't really see them as humans, always just normal people. So when you allow them to see who you are, and that it's okay not to be perfect, and adults aren't perfect, and no one's perfect, it allows them to feel like they can speak to you and they can open up, and that no question is silly and you can ask me anything. Because I know for me, when I'm mentoring, they can ask me any question and I will answer it as best as I can. I might not know the best way to answer it, but I will give you the best knowledge I can give you. I want to thank you guys all for coming as well. I think when you have smaller spaces, it's more intimate, you can kind of talk more, you can discuss more, and it gave everyone the opportunity to jump on the mic. So again, thank you guys for coming. If you guys could follow us on Instagram, that would be fabulous. And again, the more that people see what we're doing, the more people we can bring into these spaces and share opportunities and collab. So again, thank you for today, guys.